Thank you for watching Conscious Consumer Network. The live stream broadcast is free to view. You can pause and rewind live broadcasts to catch up, or view shows at a later date by accessing our free archives of all shows. Check out our broadcast guide to see what's on. You can show your support by donating to our network support fund. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribe to the monthly newsletter for updates. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
In 1945, only 7 years after scientists discovered the atom could be split in a process called nuclear fission, the United States detonated the first atomic bombs, proving that nuclear materials could be harnessed to create unprecedentedly destructive weapons. Then in 1951, an experimental reactor in Idaho generated electricity for the grid, demonstrating that nuclear materials could also be used for peaceful purposes. Nuclear materials commonly refer to fissile materials that are capable of sustaining a chain reaction in a process that releases massive amounts of energy called nuclear fission. When the atom of a fissile material such as uranium-235 is bombarded with a neutron, it tends to split or fission. This releases a large amount of energy, as well as 2 or 3 additional neutrons and 2 highly radioactive fission products. The additional neutrons released can then trigger fissions in nearby atoms of uranium-235 or other fissile materials, which in turn emit even more neutrons. This is how a chain reaction begins. The energy resulting from fission can be released in a controlled manner inside a reactor to generate energy for electricity, or all at once in a nuclear bomb to produce an explosion. Uranium-235 and plutonium-239 are the most significant nuclear materials. Enrichment and reprocessing technologies are key to harnessing these materials for both peaceful purposes and nuclear weapons development. Understanding these nuclear materials and the basics of how nuclear reactors and nuclear weapons work is the focus of this tutorial.
Hello, I'm Leandros.
Hi, I'm Lord Martin.
Hello, I'm Neil.
Hi, I'm Will, and this is Youth on Subjects of the World.
And today we're going to be talking about nuclear weapons and the effect they might have on the world or may not have on the world or whatever related to it. Who would like to kick this topic off?
Well, first of all, oh, sorry, Leandros, you had something to say?
Well, I was going to just give how I see nuclear weapons. All right. So how I like to see it is, it's a room full of people, and a few of them have guns. Not all of them, but a few. So they range from handguns to assault rifles to RPGs. And one shot at this point, one shot could set up a massive gunfight that could kill everyone. But it's a deterrent of everyone dying in the room that nobody really, shoots. You were going to say, Martin?
I I like that analogy because that's pretty much how it is. I mean, especially with like the countries have no problem with like smaller things to bomb, but when it comes to like world wars, those haven't happened in a while, fortunately, thanks to nuclear weapons. Because if one bomb gets sent at another country, especially another nuclear superpower, it pretty much means all countries are gone, and then everyone's dead, and no one wants that. So I find that mass destruction is kind of what people don't want to happen, so that usually makes it so that we don't all die. And I think that's interesting, that the idea of everyone having weapons, you'd think, well, it would be a big problem, but actually it makes us safer, which is funny, and it can kind of relate to other things like gun control, which you made that analogy already.
Well, there's a word for it. What you just said. It's called mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, it's mutually assured destruction all around.
So I guess the way I would see nuclear weapons is, Leandros, I think that analogy you made hit it right on the head, except the guns that are fired have little mini grenades in them. Because you have to understand that nuclear weapons, while they could not only kill the person they're being aimed at, there's collateral damage. So let's say there are three
I'm
people.
talking about the people caught in the crossfire too. This
Right.
is a room
They can be
crowded
definitely
full of
caught in the
people.
crossfire. Nuclear weapons are, and like Martin was saying, I think the irony is very, very strong. How nuclear weapons, probably the biggest, most destructive weapon that humankind has ever created, is probably the biggest factor for peace in the world today, because of, just like Will said, mutually assured destruction. And that is definitely an argument for, well then, case closed, nuclear weapons, well, at least to stop in world peace. Well, some people have theorized that, I think around, and this is not an absolute number, but 100 nuclear weapons detonated could cause a very, very serious scenario that could obviously, way nuclear weapons work is huge explosion. That's obvious. Very big explosion. Lots of people could die. Then there's the biggest part of nuclear weapons. One of the biggest reasons it's such a bad thing to drop a nuke is because of the nuclear fallout and just how long it lasts. Even the halftime of some nukes which is the amount of time it takes for half the radiation to dissipate, and that's just half of it, is monumentally large. And the way radiation works, if I'm not mistaken, is that it basically, very simple way of putting it, it attacks, it almost bombards the atoms and the molecules and the matter that makes up your body, which causes mutations. And no, it won't turn you into a super mutant. It will most likely actually give you mutations that could possibly lead to cancer, that could kill you very fast. And that is one of the biggest reasons nuclear weapons are such a major problem in today's world.
You're also forgetting another big point of why you should never drop more than at least one nuclear bomb, as well as if you're planning to take over somewhere, you don't want the entire land to be destroyed and covered in radiation. So if you're planning to invade somewhere, you don't want that. But if you're planning just to attack, then yeah. But the main problem of a nuclear world war wouldn't be the explosions or even the radiation. Both of those would go away quite quickly and not cause, well, it would cause permanent damage and a lot of, bad genetics. But the worst thing would be the nuclear winter, which would be all the smog coming up into the air and covering the sun, causing mass food shortages. And pretty much everyone, like on an island somewhere, everyone has to wear a gas mask. So basically it would have to be like that because there would be constant downpour of ash, radioactive ash. So you'd have to wear this to, keep it from getting in your lungs.
Also, just realized behind you have pictures of Fallout Boy. The, logo of Vault Tech.
I'm a very big Fallout fan.
Good. I am too.
Well, you're going to have to become even a bigger fan if nuclear war breaks out. You're going to have to be a pretty big fan. Yeah, you're going to put that pit boy on. I am ready. Anyway, anyways, like you were talking about nuclear winter, I forgot about that, like you were saying, and yeah, that is such a big deal because that could not only affect the area that the nuclear weapon was dropped on, but could affect a large part of the world. Because
It would
actually,
affect the whole Earth.
right, because it could possibly, if enough nukes are dropped, bring a second ice age because of there are so many images online of like showing New York City but frozen over from the second coming of the ice age of a nuclear winter. And yeah, exactly. We are not prepared for this. We are in no way prepared for this. If nuclear war breaks out, humankind is not prepared for this. And like you were saying, it is mutually assured destruction, not for two countries, not for two armies, but for the world if enough nukes are dropped. If nuclear war breaks out between, honestly, probably any nuclear power, because I believe every single nuclear power there is, other than North Korea, but we don't even know if they have nukes. It's it's all covered in conspiracy. But
Who knows?
yeah, who
They've
knows?
lied before. They say Kim Jong-un created the sun or something.
Kim Jong-un can talk to dolphins. Anyways, moving on. Let's not talk about the glorious leader too much. Long live him. But oh God. But it really could be 100 nukes could be all it takes. And honestly, I believe almost every single nuclear superpower has at least 100 nukes in its arsenal. I believe some of the nuclear superpowers, I might not be able to name all of them, but off of memory, Pakistan, India, Russia, America, China, Israel, UK, I think has some nuclear weapons. So that's 7 so far. I'm not sure if any others do. If I forgot some, I apologize. North Korea, but who knows? Again, who knows? You know what? I'll just throw them on there because, even one nuclear weapon detonated somewhere could cause major problems due to the economic fallout. Even if it's just a small nuclear weapon, it could cause economic fallout if it hits a place like New York City. And if the nuclear winter doesn't kill us, if the radiation doesn't kill us, if the blast doesn't kill us, the economic fallout will cause some major problems, or the political fallout.
With enough nukes, the entire planet, apart from the nuclear winter and the radiation, which the radiation is actually quite a small problem. Nukes put out quite a lot of radiation, but most of it is gone within the first 2 or 3 seconds. So mainly the radiation we'd have to be worrying about is from nuclear power plant meltdowns. And since there's quite a lot of those, if that all went crap, we're at least an advanced enough civilization, we'd probably have to think about, staying on Earth where it would be incredibly hard to grow crops and survive and grow animals. Wait, you don't grow animals. Basically, maybe moving to space or somewhere such as that, or maybe another Earth-like planet. And there's also a theory that Mars was destroyed by nuclear war.
Okay. I mean, I can see what that, yeah, that sounds like something that could happen, but they see it as very unlikely. But would it also, affect, the water supply and such? It would really just screw over water.
Well, the nuclear winter could cause, how the Martian polar ice caps are to freeze, which they are right now, frozen, and melt away and destroy the atmosphere, which it is basically pretty messed up.
And also, basically, so we all like technology, right? Yep. Well, when a nuclear bomb detonates, it causes an EMP or an electromagnetic pulse, which basically destroys all technology, computers, phones, pretty much everything that has a circuit board or computer in it.
I think we could also, and also going back to the nuclear power plant, that's also can be a controversial subject. I think the whole idea of nuclear energy, whether it's weaponized or used to power electricity, and technology really makes the world go round. It's a saying. Obviously, technology doesn't make the world go round, but or does it? Who knows?
Conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theory. No, but uh, so here's the thing: is that let's talk for a second about why nuclear weapons are controversial. Of course, obviously, because they could destroy the planet. The reason they were controversial for existence is obviously what we were just talking about, how they have done so much for world peace, ironically, because of the fact of retaliation. And it's really done a lot to solidify a peaceful time for us. I know we see a lot of these, we're like looking on the news and we see terrorist attacks and horrible things happening. We're like, oh my God, look at this. I'm not doing anything to try to make these sound okay, because terrorist attacks are never okay. But if you really look at the statistics and compare a terrorist attack to an entire war, honestly, everything has gotten so much better. It really has. No, it's not everything's fine and dandy, but it has gotten better. It has gotten so much better, and some of that can be given to the credit of nuclear weapons existing. But nuclear power, on the other hand, provides a large amount of power, cheap, clean, all around great. But then there's the whole thing about what to do with nuclear waste.
Well, second of all, nuclear weapons are, well, they're safe, but they're not that safe. First of all, there's an incredibly fascinating video I watched, documentary I watched about how nuclear weapons are kept, and archaic technology like floppy disks, stuff like that. And there have been so many errors in the keeping of nuclear weapons that the amount of times we have avoided nuclear war is a huge amount. Because there was just one time where there was a malfunction where someone thought a nuclear missile was heading towards, I can't quite remember the details, but...
Russia, I think?
Yes, that might be it. And this one officer just said, don't retaliate, and that completely, stopped a nuclear war from happening.
It was a Russian
think-
submarine.
I think the possibility of nuclear war is very terrifying, but also, as we said, we're going to talk about the effects it has on the world, not just after a nuclear war would happen, what the effects on the world, what the effect on us having nuclear weapons in general has had on today's society and the way we look at things. I mean, when you look at the grand scheme of things, we have not had nuclear weapons in possession for that long at all. And already since that, there has been no world wars. And I think long term, when I think long term about the possibility of nuclear war, I feel like it's a lot less likely than it could have been, and it's a lot less likely that there will be a nuclear war than most people think. Because, I mean, most people, especially world leaders, are stubborn, and most people don't want to die.
Martin, could you just try to move the mic a little bit away from your face, because it's kind of crackling a little bit?
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Just saying.
And I feel like nuclear weapons are important aspects in how world leaders think about, because a lot of people don't try and think about how world leaders are, like how they think, and they have possession to of these weapons that can destroy all way of life, but what it's interesting to me that people think that it's going to happen at any minute now, because I feel like if there were to be a nuclear war, there would have to be like a really big reason for everyone to basically destroy all life on Earth.
I feel like I actually imagined a scenario. I gave an example, and the example was nuclear weapons. Like all it takes, honestly, is one nuclear war. One nuclear war is all it really takes. One country launch nukes, and even one country launch nukes at another country, the other country will launch nukes back, obviously. But other countries other countries with nukes will be pressured. So let's say there's a war between America and Russia with nuclear weapons. You don't know where the other nuclear states are gonna side. China and Russia are allies, are pretty big allies together, but and yet uh, yet and yet India and Russia are also allies, but India and China hate each other. Maybe India would side with America on a nuclear war. Then Pakistan, they don't like India. Maybe they would side with Russia and China. And this is just a little imaginary scenario in my head. It could play out nothing like that. But just for that scenario, imagine all the thinking about who and who. Guess what would happen? Imagine what would happen. This scenario could involve all those countries. And yes, it probably won't be accurate. If a nuclear war does break out, maybe all of the people allying would be all different people. I could be stupid, but my point is, if a nuclear war happens between two countries, it's not just going to involve those two countries, most likely. And I do have to agree with Martin. The thought of in a way, because nuclear war probably isn't as likely as to see it happening as we think it is. But all it takes is one mistake, one person getting pissed off and launching a single nuke, and it's done. It is done. And you have to think, let's just say hypothetically that we dismantled everyone, it was a nuclear-free world. And let's say conflicts did break out. Huge wars did break out. But imagine those wars did break out and the casualty rate was humongous. But honestly, we have to ask ourselves, would it still be worth it? Because you could argue, even if there was a huge casualty, like 1 billion people died, could you argue that it was still worth it to dismantle those nuclear weapons because it could have meant annihilation of the human race? And honestly, I think you could argue that. Honestly, this is a gray topic. This topic is not black and white in any way, shape, or form. There was a famous saying said, I don't know when it was said or by whom it was said, but it's a great saying. It's World War III will be fought with weapons we cannot even imagine, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Just to get away from the grim bits, I have a little bit of a fun fact. Back in the 1940s, there's a car called the Ford Nucleon. Basically, it it was being developed by Ford, and it was going to have a nuclear reactor to power it. It failed, of course, and would have been very dangerous. I assume car crashes would have had a way bigger destruction rate.
Huh? Huh?
Sorry, I thought, oh, Leandris, you can go.
Sorry, my everything went out. I was about to just say, I don't think really anybody can, 'cause I don't think there will ever be a nuclear weapon-free future. It's beyond the impossible. It's like trying to take toys away from a toddler. One toddler is going to refuse. It's not going to be, and then really when they're all gone, what's stopping people from making another one and getting the upper hand? It's really impossible in my opinion.
I feel like, oh, sorry, do you ask something? Okay, so I feel like nuclear weapons, we shouldn't get rid of them, because if we got rid of like, I'm not saying we could, even if we wanted to, but if we got rid of nuclear weapons, that would be causing more immediate problems. Because if we didn't have nuclear weapons, the thought of war would be much less everyone dies, and much more how it was years ago when like people fought with guns and things like that, and there would be a lot more, it would be a lot easier to start a war than it is now. Whereas now, if there were to be a war, there would be no need for a draft or an army, especially a world war, because everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people, a lot of countries have bombs, and countries like to eye for an eye, and if one thing happens, everyone's going to chip in and bomb the shit out of each other. So I feel like since that is immediate death, I feel like having nuclear weapons is good. And it's not good, but it's a better alternative than not having them.
I think that also could go back to the question where even if a huge war did break out after if let's say hypothetically that again all nuclear weapons were destroyed, you know, you don't know if it's worth it or not, and obviously one country is going to keep the nukes. No country is ever going to do it, and honestly, we don't trust each other yet. Human beings haven't reached a high enough level of consciousness to trust each other enough to not to dismantle their nukes. Hell, we're all on one planet, and we can't even freaking agree on anything in a single country. I mean, eventually, hopefully, we'll ascend to such an awesome way where we'll have a whole we'll have interplanetary, federation or something. But that's yet to be seen, and we can't even trust each other, or we can't even trust our own neighbors. But moving from, I'd like to talk about a little bit for nuclear power. Nuclear power is another controversial subject, as most things about nuclear, most things about nuclear devices are.
Controversial subject.
Whoa, your mic. Something's really wrong with it. Is that just for me, or can you guys hear it too?
I heard it too.
Yeah, your mic sounds like a robot, seriously.
Again.
Yeah, you need to fix that. Anyways, that was creepy. Nuclear power. Clean, efficient, powerful, and obviously we have a big problem with global warming. It could definitely decrease our carbon footprint. But I honestly think a nuclear accident with the plant isn't as big a deal because well, it is a big deal because remember what happened with
Hiroshima.
Chernobyl.
No. Chernobyl. Not Hiroshima.
Hiroshima, yeah, that was a bomb.
Other thing. It was like there was a meltdown at one of the Japanese plants. I don't remember the name.
Fukushima.
Yes.
Yeah, just got typed in the chat. Thank you, Anne. But it was Chernobyl is obviously probably the most popular one due to the fact, it's still irradiated to this day. I don't know when it will stop being irradiated, but it's going to be a very long time. And
like 60 years.
Yeah, it's super creepy. It's ultra creepy there because it's just like everybody left. Everybody just pieced.
It's like the human race just left.
Yeah, everybody just pieced the F out and left. Seriously. And it was like peace and left because they did not want to get weird mutated third arms or something. But the thing is that could be a problem. What if there's a national crisis? Let's say for example, a country converts most of their power plants to nuclear power plants, and there's a massive problem all over the country. Let's say a terrorist attack occurs in one of those nuclear power plants. You could be technically giving the power you could be giving the power to people, you're giving the power to those people to actually use nuclear weapons in that way. But not the biggest, but I think the most pressing matter on some people's minds are, what are we going to do with nuclear waste? It's being stored in caves, I believe, right now. Just no one knows what to do with it. People have theorized launching it into space, but have you seen rockets, how they malfunction, how they've blown up? It's huge. If that was freaking loaded with nuclear waste, guess what would happen? It'd be a lot worse. But because you could have potentially a nuclear explosion if the right kind of nuclear waste is there. Because when people imagine nuclear waste, they imagine like vats of green liquid, and that's not all what it is. It can also be. It's actually also the clothes that they wear there. It's the protective gear that they wear. It's anything. It's really a lot of things that the workers use there. But it's also very radioactive materials that could cause a nuclear explosion if exposed to the wrong elements. And yeah, I think a big ass rocket explosion would be the right element to blow it all up. But yeah, so that's not a very viable alternative. Just launch it into space. Screw it, launch it into space. Put it at the sun, see what happens. It'll be a cool freaking fireworks show. Anyways, you can't do that because who knows what will happen while it's on Earth. Once it's out of Earth, no, I guess it's fine, but the amount of accidents that could probably happen and the cost would probably take away all the benefits of cost for nuclear waste, for nuclear power. So I think we should talk about nuclear power for a second because it is a definitely controversial subject.
Am I still a robot? Okay,
No.
that's usually good. So I want to address the thing you said about blowing up the sun, and I know you're joking, but I can just imagine like a captain guy like, oh, I want fireworks. Let's shoot the sun with nuclear weapons. Yes, fireworks. Okay, that's all I had to say.
So does anybody else have any opinions on like nuclear power and the effects it can have on the world? Because that's a big thing.
Imagine nuclear power as, let's say you have, let me think about it. So, explosive red barrels in video games are pretty much a cliche now. Let's say you had one of those, but you had your base. Let's say you had a base and you had dozens of red barrels all over it. But those red barrels are, I don't know, super red barrels. They can basically destroy half your base in one thing, or at least contaminate it. So you have to work really hard to clean it up. Another invading enemy player comes and explodes those red barrels. You lose a lot of your base. You can't live there. You can't store people there. It stopped being useful to you. The land is worthless, contaminated. Of course, the red barrels are nuclear power plants.
Nuclear power is such a good example of like it's almost like, we don't really know what we're doing. We're exploring this technology that, if handled correctly and waste disposed of safely, can be for the good of the entire planet with an abundance of energy to power the entire world, which would be absolutely freaking amazing. But on the other hand, a few disasters could cause potentially, I'll use the word, it'd be a shitstorm, for lack of a better word. It really would. And if we don't know how to safely dispose of the waste, who knows what could happen. So nuclear power is really, we just don't know what we can be doing. And a lot of countries have nuclear power plants. I have them right here. All right, right here. All right, Wikipedia. Right. Let's see here. There's a lot of them. I can't name them all because there are just quite a few. It's
There's a lot of them.
it's a lot of it's not too many of them, but it's daunting to say the least when we don't know what to do with the waste. The most basic thing we don't know what to do with, the nuclear waste. We don't know what to do with it, yet it's such a cheap, efficient, not really a harmful gas-producing way, clean power, and we're just like, what the hell do we do? Imagine a world powered by so much electricity, we have an abundance of it. Yet imagine a world where we don't even know what to do with the waste. That abundance of power at the same time could cause so many bad things to happen with the waste or a reactor meltdown. And if it's near a population center, you're screwed.
If you want to actually see the effects of different nuclear devices on pretty much anywhere in the world, search a website called Nuke Map. Basically, you can choose a bomb throughout history, or choose like a certain amount of kilograms of TNT it has the power of, and then basically you can detonate it just by clicking anywhere, and it'll show you the it'll show you the fireball range, the radiation range, the destruction range, burn range, stuff like that. So it's a really interesting website that you can do. Just don't drop any Tsar bombas. They are big.
Oh, I guess the next question is, it's a quick one, I guess. But how much more effective is nuclear power compared to solar and wind? I mean, really, how does it compare? Is it better than those two things combined? Is it, it's about.
Let me look that up. All right, let me look it up. So, nuclear power compared to other energy sources. I'm looking it up on a trusty Google. All right. Nuclear power is by far one of the most land use efficient availability for conventional fuel resources is also important. One second, let me just read this and give you like a quick summary of it. Example. That doesn't really answer the question about how it compares to other power sources. All right, this is not a phone-friendly article, clearly. Yes?
I've got a very simple answer to that. Actually, today I found an infographic of how much fuel does it take to power a light bulb with different energy sources. So for nuclear power, to power a light bulb for a year, it would take 0.035 pounds of, nuclear material. For wind, for wind power, it would take 1.5 megawatts operating at 25% capacity for 2 hours and 20 minutes. For solar energy, it would take 8 days, 18 hours, 14 minutes, and 24 seconds on 100 square meters of solar panels to power a light bulb for a year. Yep, that's it.
So it seems to look like nuclear power seems to be the most efficient. Definitely by far for solar power takes 8 days to power a light bulb for a single year, while it would take a very small amount of material in a nuclear power plant to create, to power that light bulb. Let's see here. I'm going to just look at this quietly, and I'll come back to you with some more data.
Okay, so just gonna check at the beginning. Am I a robot? No.
No, you're
Okay.
not a robot.
Okay. Good. Good. So, um, when it comes to nuclear power and how much more efficient it is than other options, I feel like what's what what do we as the the human race as a whole say is more important, efficiency or whether or not something is dangerous? Like, I feel like, well, it might be less efficient to use other methods. It's also less dangerous. And I feel the efficiency and the danger, it's kind of something that needs to be thought and not just think about the efficiency because in every situation you need to think about all the positives and all the negatives. And I feel like the fact that we don't know what to do with nuclear waste is a pretty big negative in this situation, and we need to factor that in when looking at it, because while it might be more efficient in the grand scheme of things, it's not the clear obvious choice.
So I think that what Martin said is definitely it's a pretty valid thing right there. You have to understand how it's going to be in the grand scheme of things. But looking at it right now, I have an article up here by deregulatetheatom.com, and I'm going to read a small bit of it to you. So one nuclear power plant produces 1,000 megawatts per hour. You would need 60,000 acres and 2,400 and 2,800 wind turbines to equal 1,000 megawatts. So that's a big deal. That's a big comparison. You need 5,000 acres of solar panels to equal 1,000 megawatts of electricity. That's definitely it's a bit of a difference, just a smidgen of a difference. I'm kidding. That's a huge deal. And we have a little chart here. Lifetime energy produced by a $350 billion investment, 1,000 gigawatts per hours, and solar is freaking pathetic. Wind is almost half of what nuclear power is.
Yeah, we need better solar panels.
Solar is absolutely, I guess you can't see this, yeah. Okay, you can see that. See that right there? You can see solar, wind, and then nuclear. Nuclear is obviously the biggest, solar is the smallest. You see how solar is? Do you see how inefficient that really is? It's a shame that such an awesome thing that could benefit all of humanity is riddled with problems. And we honestly can do, and if we could find out a way to safely dispose of nuclear waste, it would be great. I mean, it'd be good. Move a little bit closer so we can focus. Nice, yeah. That's what we'll be in a few years. We'll have an accident. And actually, back to the subject of nuclear war, the break video is a bunch of things that will get you pretty paranoid about how close we've come to having nuclear war a few times. And like I just said, nuclear war probably won't affect just two countries going at it. It'll affect a lot of countries. Back to that saying, World War III will be fought with weapons we cannot imagine. World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. And that's scary.
It's also something important to think about. Sorry, Will, I just have something quick to say is the analogy of World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. If there is even anyone to fight a war after that, you got to look at the grand scheme of things here. If there
Stop,
is,
Martin. Let's just try to be a little optimistic. We're all gonna die already. Martin's like, oh yeah, but actually we'll all already be dead. So I was like, come on, let's at least have some hope for the future of humanity.
Yeah, well, another thing to be a little bit more optimistic is that optimistic is that no one really knows what's going to happen in the future we can look at the percentages of things increasing or what the likelihoods are of what's going to happen, but no one really knows what we're going to do. I mean, tomorrow, everyone could, like, tomorrow something completely unexplainable could happen, and we really have no exact way of predicting anything in the future 100%. So that's always good to think about. It's also kind of terrifying, but it's a little bit more optimistic.
The quote you have said, Neil, is actually was said by Albert Einstein.
Like a real quote, or like when people say like that goldfish quote, because that's not real. Everyone thinks he said that, but it's not.
Yeah, it is a real quote. He said it in an interview.
Awesome. I quoted Albert Einstein. Is it Einstein? Yeah. You know, it's times like these that make me wonder, should we have the show live? Because we're all just like the optimistic Albert Einstein. Anyways, moving on. Us interrupting each other all the time too. We're just like, oh, yeah, I'll go. Anyways, a little side tangent. Let's move on. It's like this is like a comedy show almost.
So does anyone want to talk about any more positive topics than the idea of everyone dying in fiery death explosions?
Well, we could talk about...
Well, this is about, nuclear. And I don't think there's much bright in nuclear. Well, it is bright.
Well, you can
Except
look at
the fireball. Dead-end.
Yeah.
That's the brightest thing about nuclear stuff. It's the fireball.
Well, you can look at, well, it's less people dying in like gunfights. Like if there were to be another war, it wouldn't another world war. It wouldn't be fought with like guns and like that quote was saying. It wouldn't be fought with guns and bullets. It would be fought with nuclear weapons or weapons we can't even imagine because we don't know when the next world war would be, if it ever happens.
I've got to say one thing. People are very good at finding ways to survive things. So I doubt very much that old world culture will be destroyed, or it'll just be thousands of dunes across the entire Earth. I think that kind of apocalypse is unrealistic.
Well,
it's not going to turn everything into dust.
I feel I kind of agree with you. At the same time, I don't. I feel like the idea we have in our head when we think of total extinction of the human race is just like an empty Earth with nothing around and like empty and destroyed buildings. I feel like the possibility of everyone dying is much more realistic and unfortunately more like it has a bigger chance of happening than a lot of people think it does. I feel like, especially considering things that aren't even related to nuclear war, can also have a possibility of causing the death of the human race. Like we had one a couple weeks ago on AI. Like the future, and I've said this a lot, the future is always unclear, and no one can ever fully know what's going to happen.
Yeah, like in medieval times, or or the 1800s, where they thought computers would never become a thing. They thought they would just be
What's
big
a
as
computer?
houses. Oh my God!
First of all, nuclear bomb shelters, I think, their sales have gone up since the election. Second of all, Trump, nuclear war 2020.
Well,
But I think if a nuclear war was going to happen, it would decimate and destroy the environment. But now, don't call me weird or a doomsday prepper, but I've done a lot of research on nuclear weapons. A lot. At least 20 hours of research. Yeah. But basically, it's the explosion detonation may be the exciting wow fireworks end of the world thing, but really the aftermath is going to be the problem. And bomb shelters and stuff like that.
If
The
you could
world
survive that long.
Yeah, the world isn't going to be completely destroyed. There's still going to be like old skyscrapers, maybe crumbled buildings, some low down things, old metro stations, stuff like
It's
that.
not going to be desert. It's going to be more snowy.
Yeah,
This is
and
I'm
super
tired of
depressing.
every apocalypse movie being sandy.
The ice age isn't going to last forever, as the mammoths said before they went extinct. So basically, well, there's going to be a lot of living underground, before everything goes back to semi-normal, Earth-wise,
That actually
there's- there's
that makes me think of something kind of funny to think about is in the future, if we all like civilization has to live underground, like we know how we make sci-fi movies now about going to space and finding new life. Like we're gonna make sci-fi movies about going up above the ground and seeing everything and like how cool it would be. Like the upstairs. Like I think the future is equal parts terrifying and awesome to think about because you really have no idea what's going to happen, and there's so many possibilities of things that can happen. And
No, it's okay. You go.
I'm just rambling. I really don't have any point.
Well, the second part I was going to talk about is, let's say bombs have dropped, people have gone under for however many years. There are still some very light surface societies out there, that maybe escaped the worst of the blast and the radiation and maybe are eating their dog food, in their little little shelters.
Dog.
What's going to be the real problem is human laziness. So, what I see the problem with is a nuclear society. Let's say the shelters have opened, the underground societies are coming up. People are lazy. They don't want to start creating new things again. They're happy for as long as they can to live off the past, like finding old canned beans or stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. Like people aren't going to be like, okay, let's start instantly rebuilding society. No, they're going to be like, okay, well, this is good enough. I'm too lazy to start rebuilding society. Let's just sit here in our little huts, So that's going to be a big problem. And I don't fully agree with the sticks and stones. I think for that reality to be true, it would have to be a much more devastating kind of nuclear bomb to turn the world into a complete wasteland. I think there's going to be like a few buildings. They're going to be rusted and stuff, but they're still going to be there. Stuff that escaped the blast. And people are not going to fight with sticks and stones. There's going to be guns that may be still working or fixable,
There's going to be
Stuff
at
like
least
that.
one handgun. And
Exactly. And
one handgun with one single bullet, and everyone's just fighting with like rocks
Click,
to
click.
get it. Like,
and the
dude.
person who gets it just shoots themselves because they don't want to live in that world.
Oh.
Who would want to live in that world, really? Imagine the world after that. Just imagine it. You have to imagine it. Like you just said, I think, was it Will that said how, or Martin, it was Martin who said, I think, that we'd be making sci-fi movies about the surface. And honestly, nuclear, we don't know. We can never really know how this was, what the world will look like. We've done nuclear tests, but we don't know, like, how much it's going to really affect everybody, affect society. I think the political fallout will also be a major thing. Who knows how the United Nations will react? Who knows how other people will react? We don't know what could happen. There could be rioting in the streets from a single nuclear weapon being dropped. Really, and there wouldn't even be a single nuclear weapon dropped. It'd be multiple weapons launched, and other weapons launched. Other countries would join in. It honestly, nuclear war can't end well, which is why it brings back the point of, is it worth it? You have to understand, because, again, nuclear weapons have been so much for peace, so ironically, which is why there's actually a new thing being developed, ballistic missile defense systems. And people are more scared of that than they are of nuclear weapons. Do you know why? Because they can knock nukes out of the sky and blow them up before they hit impact. And there are actually massive regulations being placed on those. Do you know why? Because if we have a country that has nuclear weapons but no fear of nuclear retaliation, that is probably one of the most dangerous things we will see in our entire lifetime, or probably our children's lifetime. Hopefully, at least. Hopefully that's the most horrible thing. I mean, who knows what the most horrible thing could be. But honestly, we really, because those things, they can, I don't know how many countries have them. I think it's like 3. I think it's America, India, and I think maybe Russia, and maybe another country. I'm not really sure about Russia, but I think they would have them. But regulations are being put on those because they're like, oh crap, if these countries have nuclear weapons, but they can defend against other nuclear attacks, guess what's going to happen? With that, consoling note.
With that depressing as hell note, let's go to break.
Bye. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Youth on Subjects of the World, and we're talking about everybody you know and love and don't know dying. Glad to have you.
Hooray.
Yay. We're also talking about clean, efficient energy source that should be for the good of the planet, except the fact if we mess up, it will mean the end of the world. Yep. So, interesting. The topic is
There's
nuclear
positives
stuff.
and negatives to that.
Yeah. And as you can see, as you saw from the break video, it's definitely possible that nuclear war could break out. And as tensions rise between some countries, nuclear war continues to be on the horizon of everybody's minds. It all takes is one slip up or one pissed off politician to launch nuclear weapons.
But think of it more optimistic, because who would want to end all life on Earth? Definitely not people here. They just want to make some money.
See, I feel like a lot of people, myself included, sometimes fall into the trap of thinking, well, it will never happen because no one wants everyone to die. But it's much more complicated than that. And I feel like a lot of people, again, myself included, don't always take that into account, that it's not just everyone thinks, oh, everyone's going to die, so that means we're never going to do this. A lot of it's about retaliation. Like, in a way, our governments are like toddlers, like, oh, you hit me, so I want to hit you back, only it's with giant bombs that will kill everyone.
One word. Psychopaths.
Pretty much. I mean, you have to have some things wrong with you if you want to be in a position of government where you control your country and the biggest bombs in the world.
1 out of 5 CEOs are psychopaths. So I think how many we have in the government.
Yeah. So I think, Will, as we were talking about during the break, you had an unpopular opinion that you wanted to bring up. So why don't you talk about that real quick?
I'm what you'd call a minarchist. I think the government has too much control. It can spy on its citizens too much, basically stuff like that. And yeah, I don't want to get rid of the government. That would be idiotic. That would be very idiotic.
That's really dumb.
Exactly. I think there should be some government, but I don't think it should be able to completely control the lives of the citizens and put them in fear and terror and stuff like that.
Well, that's what democracy's supposed to be, but it isn't right now.
We more have a society based on money, basically. Money controls the world, as the saying goes. Money makes the world go round. Greed, money, basically all of that is, it's not exactly the best for the human race or free speech or democracy.
Honestly, I don't think there are any true democracies in the entire world, to be fair. First of all, United States of America, I'm going to use that as an example because I live there.
Yes, we know. You do this every time.
I live in America and I'm kidding. But, I just like to say that I'm going to use it as an example because I know the most about it. I may know quite a bit about other countries, but because I live here, I naturally know more. I mean, it's just a thing, that happens. But so it's a constitutional republic. It's not a direct democracy. It was not founded on a direct democracy. There are no direct democracies. Direct democracies where everybody votes for the thing they want to happen, and it happens. That's a democracy. A republic is where it's representative.
Yeah.
Just look at the popular vote of the election.
Paper, but like I saw a meme the other day comparing democracy to communism, and basically the end note was democracy is great and looks good, but it looks good on paper, but it doesn't always work out so well when you try and apply
Of
it.
course.
But nothing really does, especially when you're talking about entire countries with thousands and thousands of.
And honestly, anarchy isn't all that bad, to be honest. Anarchy, when you think about anarchy, you think about chaos and things happening. Oh, bang, bang, anarchy. Boom, 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 boom.
Neil?
That's not anarchy. Anarchy
Neil?
is the lack of a governmental figure.
Neil,
Yeah?
I'm gonna stop you right there. Even though I agree with you, I just think it's a little off topic, and
Yeah, I'm getting somewhere. I'm getting
I don't
somewhere.
think okay, but I don't think everyone on the panel agrees with that, and I don't want to start an argument that
Yeah,
isn't
I'm
really.
I'm just trying to explore all options to see. Because obviously I benefit from the government, and most people do. I'm just trying to, we're taking a hypothetical situation involving nuclear weapons. So anarchy, basically lack of a governmental figure, and you have to imagine. Obviously, there would be chaos, but But you have to understand. Maybe it wouldn't be on the scale of it wouldn't be on the scale of a large-scale nuclear apocalypse war, or even a huge war. You have to understand there obviously would be crazies out there, but the reason we created morality in the government in the first place is because humans do have morality. And it comes back to the same thing. Things might not be all good, but you have to think, is it worth it to have nuclear weapons? Is it worth it? Honestly, for me, I don't know. Is it worth it? Like I said, it's done so much for peace and all that, but at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? Even if there was a World War III, but even if we dismantled nuclear weapons and there was a World War III that happened, would it still be worth it though? Because of the possible, because honestly, let me just this hypothetical situation. It might take a lot of world wars and huge wars to possibly end the human race. But it only takes one nuclear war and one mistake. And all it takes to start a nuclear war is one mistake. It doesn't take one mistake to mobilize thousands of hundreds of thousands of troops, strategizing, putting tanks here, helicopters there. But all it takes is one mistake for a nuclear war to break out. I don't have a specific opinion on this because you really don't know. Because again, it's done so much for peace. You have to ask yourself, is it worth it?
First of all, just one thing I'd like to say about anarchy. Your potatoes, your life. Give me those potatoes. I want your potatoes.
No.
Yeah, we got a bit off topic with the anarchy and versus government thing, and that's left to another time. Let's go back to nuclear weapons and power and such.
Right, but like I said, the lack of a figure to mobilize those troops, it obviously might not be as good for a lot of people, but with the loss of life and gain of life, it really comes down to, is it worth it? Now I'm going to ask you, what is your opinion on, are nuclear weapons worth it? No, like, well, I got to think this and this and this, but I feel like you got to say this. You got to say, I don't know. Yes, nuclear weapons are worth it. No, they're not worth it. And that's all you can say. I guess I can't really order you, but I'm requesting you to say that. All right? That's right. It's a request. Doesn't sound as intimidating when I say I'm requesting you, but I am requesting you. So I'm asking you, all you do is turn on your mic and say, yes, it's worth it. No, it's not worth it. I honestly don't know. I'm going to start. I honestly don't know. Turning off mic.
Can you repeat the request?
All right, I'll repeat the request. The request is, are nuclear weapons worth it? Versus, what
Okay.
would happen if, the nuclear weapons were launched versus even if there was a huge war, would it still be better than the possible extinction of the human race? Because all it takes is one mistake with nuclear weapons. But
Okay.
there's peace.
But here's the thing. What do you mean by is it worth having nuclear weapons as opposed to, like, I don't understand what you
As
mean.
opposed to not having them.
As opposed to not having them, is it
Yes.
worth it? Yes, it's worth it to have them because the peace that it's caused for the last some odd years has been good, even though it might not be so good in the future, which it's looking right now like it's not going to be. But as of right now, yes, I would say it is worth it to have nuclear weapons.
Yes, I think it would be worth it. The fireworks would be glorious as the world burns. I'm kidding though. I think so first of all, yes, but I think less nuclear weapons and better care of them, at least. Or world peace. World peace would be great too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
less fireworks.
It's a lot more complicated than just like a yes or no question. There's a lot of pros and cons.
I agree with you,
Landros?
Will. Yeah, I agree with you on everything that you just said, Will. That will be all.
Let me just clarify on my answer for a second. The reason I'm saying I don't know is because right now it's caused such great peace in the world. And I'm not trying to ignore all the horrible tragedies that are going on in the world. Of course not, because there are. But compared to years ago, we're so peaceful and so advanced because nuclear weapons keeping us at peace and the threat of retaliation. But are they worth it? Because like I was saying, let's say a hypothetical all nuclear weapons disappear, and let's say the World War III happens and it's freaking horrible. Let's say 1 billion people die. It still might be worth it. Might be worth it because we don't know what could happen if a single nuclear war breaks out. Even in 100 years if a nuclear war breaks out, it could mean the end of the human race. And in 1,000 years, humanity might still feel the effects of a nuclear war if they even exist. But in 1,000 years, we don't know if we'll still feel the effects of a World War III. So like I was saying, I just don't know. So now that we've all answered that question, I guess we can, and notice none of us said no, they're not worth it. So I find that interesting. None of us have given a hardcore no, they're not worth it. So I find that interesting.
Well, I find that interesting as well, but I feel like none of us really gave a hardcore yes either. I feel like everyone, it's not a yes or no question. As you said earlier, I believe, Neil, you said it's not a black and white subject. It's not like it's good and these are the goods and these are the, it's very mixed. There's a lot of upsides and there's a lot of downsides. As of right now, yes, but in the future, who knows what could happen, and it could be no. Like, what would we rather have here? Just possible immediate destruction for most of the human race, or wars without nuclear weapons that causes an individual deaths of people giving their life for their country. Like, it, yeah.
Never mind, you go.
It's a grim topic because pretty much any way you look at it, there's going to be bad things, and the bad things are pretty bad. But I feel like the reason why everyone leaned more towards the side of yes is because our brains value things. Our brains,
Our brains value the individual rather than the whole.
Yeah. Our brains value more individual deaths as being more painful and dangerous than something that could happen in the future, because we can't really wrap our head around that much destruction happening.
First of all, right now, here's my more detailed answer. Right now, heck yes, we need nuclear weapons. It's like, this is how I'd explain why we need them. Okay? If you try to kill me, I have this poison stabber thing. If you try to kill me, I promise I won't kill. If you try to kill me, I'll kill you with the poison stabber or whatever. And basically, if you try to kill this person, you'll die too. Like, so it's like a contract saying, I won't kill you if you kill me. I won't kill you if you, no. I will kill you if you try to kill me. And we'll both die, basically. That's what it's saying. So, yeah, right now we do need them. But when we get world peace, yeah, we can scrap them.
Well, I guess we have another question. If nuclear weapons are responsible for peace, then why are only a select few allowed to have it? Look at the stance of America and its allies towards North Korea or Iran. You know, it's like, what do you think about that?
What'd you say? I didn't understand the question, I think.
Oh, sorry, I didn't make myself very clear.
It's
If nuclear
written-
weapons are responsible for peace, then why are only a select few allowed to have it?
I suppose that the reason for that would be because nuclear weapons, first of all, they are responsible for peace, but they are weapons of mass destruction. They will kill so many people and drive us back so far. It's pretty unimaginable. And we have to understand how the implications of countries that actually want to start war. Look, you have to look at the countries that have nuclear weapons now. They're not at the brink of war, but when you look at Iran and North Korea, I think North Korea is more of a better topic to wrap your head around, due to the fact that North Korea has huge intent to use a nuclear weapon to kill people. They call Americans, they say, there's actually a documentary, I love it, it's on YouTube by Vice. It's something like Traveler's Guide to North Korea. I don't know when it was made, it was a while ago. There are 3 parts, watch it. It's one of my most favorite video series on YouTube. It's absolutely amazing. It only has, like, compared to the entire series, only has like probably 5 million hits altogether, and it deserves way more. If you look at North Korea, they have, the propaganda is strong. Like, this is where we defeated the American imperialists here. We defeated the American imperialists here. The American imperialists defeated there. American imperialists defeated here. American imperialists, they're all evil. We hate the American imperialists. We just want to stand strong as Korea. But the American imperialists did this. The American imperialists did that. They antagonize the outside world so much, you have to be scared of them. If you look at how they treat, we joked about how Kim Jong-un, he could talk to dolphins, he created the sun, but the people actually, they're forced to see him as a glorious leader, God. And also Kim Jong-il, the eternal leader of North Korea. By the way, even though he's dead, Kim Jong-il is the eternal leader. He will always be the leader. He's the eternal leader. And giving nuclear weapons, or not giving, I guess, but having a country like that have nuclear weapons, or they're actually not looking at the repercussions, but it's such a propaganda-driven state, the implications could be catastrophic. As you were just talking about how we look at, what if nuclear war broke out? I think it would definitely increase the problem of nuclear war breaking out.
Second of all, what you said about propaganda, I definitely agree with it. But we've got to not forget that pretty much in wartime, or like time, like the Cold War or something like that, there was propaganda everywhere. Everyone used propaganda. Propaganda is still widely used.
And if you look at what happened in World War II, I believe it's a whole thing about how America knew about Pearl Harbor, but they wanted it to happen so the American public could be behind World War II. In North Korea, they don't have a problem with that. They're not going to get protests in the street. It is a military state.
And there,
Go ahead.
And there's a theory that, the World Trade Center bombing, or more commonly referred to as 9/11, there's a theory that was also done by the government, which personally I can't say is wrong. It might be, but who knows, because it was shown that the government did have plans to basically bomb some of their own places to get people all riled up. So, that could have been the case with 9/11 or something.
I hate to say this, but what you're saying is 9/11 was an inside job?
Bush did 9/11.
I'm just saying it's not out of the possibility.
Jet fuel
Yes,
can't melt
you gotta-
steel girders.
Yeah.
That's something I
Steel
hear
beam.
a lot.
Steel beams.
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
But you
Well-
gotta consider all the possibilities.
Yes, I understand your point.
Seriously,
A lot-
you consider every possibility.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was interrupting.
No, I was interrupting actually. But yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, you have to consider all the possibilities, especially in situations like that when there is evidence to things like that. Even if it's not a lot, it's still enough that you need to look into it. And it
Damn.
is like it applies to what might end up happening in the near future with the possibility of a nuclear war, or at least fear around a nuclear war happening. Like, it's already started. You look up nuclear war on the Googles, and all of the articles, and most of them are made in the past week, and they're all talking about how nuclear war is near. And from my understanding, it's been like that for a while, but it's increasing rapidly, the amount of fear around the possibility of a nuclear war. And I fear that the fear is just feeding itself.
First of all, what was I going to say? Oh gosh, I completely forgot. Yeah.
All right. I was just going to say something, but say it before you forget.
First of all, damn government and their MK Ultras and Polybius and mind controls. And what I think is going to happen soon is, the government may not want to scrap nuclear weapons, but if the fear keeps escalating like it is to around the point of the 1950s to the 40s to the 60s, because there was a lot of fear around nuclear weapons then, if it escalates to that time, the fear of that time, governments may be completely forced to do away with nuclear weapons. They may not have a choice. The people may just, completely rise up and just say, no, we're scared of nuclear weapons. Get them out of here.
So I think that we talked about nuclear power, nuclear weapons. Let's talk for a second about Martin, go ahead. Martin, your mic's not working.
Okay, so before you guys go into that, I'm going to have to hop off because I have to leave. Thank you guys for having me on here, and I really enjoyed it. So, bye.
Bye, Martin. Don't leave us.
Bye.
We're alone now. What are we going to do without him?
Keep talking?
Well, I guess so, but still. Anyway, All right. So I guess what I was going to talk about was, and I lost my train of thought. So I think it was about, all right, so let's move on a little bit to nuclear fusion rockets. Those are cool. And they could potentially get you to Mars in, I don't know if it was 3 weeks or 3 months. I know it's a big difference, but that's a big deal. Nuclear fusion, because basically the technology we use for our rockets now is called chemical. They're called chemical rockets, right? Nuclear fusion is an entirely new, awesome technology that we could use to propel spaceflight. There are a lot of other things like photonic propulsion, solar sails, but nuclear fusion is something that we actually know because photonic propulsion is theoretical. I'm not sure how theoretical solar sails are, but we were just talking about it, nuclear weapons destroy the world or nuclear power plants destroy the world. We get away from the world with what? Nuclear stuff. It's kind of like we never freaking learn, right? It's like, oh no, nuclear weapons destroy the planet. Let's get away with the nuclear thingy. We're doing great. Humanity's doing great. But still, nuclear fusion could be an amazing technology for space travel into the frontier of space. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, it would be pretty cool. So I think we just need to recognize how freaking awesome that would be. Because, yeah, go ahead.
I just think I think nuclear energy is a good thing. I just think we have to be careful with it.
Yeah.
100%. Because, first of all, nuclear energy right now, like power plants, there's a huge problem with them, and that is the waste they produce, right? So I think that is the biggest deal at the moment, is the waste that they produce. And we don't know what to do with them. Maybe if we're that efficient with nuclear fusion rockets, we could propel them into space and blow them up and be like, whoa, and watch a green explosion in the sky, and then we all die of a freaking mutated fourth arm because we weren't careful enough. Anyways, moving on. Anybody else have something to say?
Yeah. I guess nuclear isn't all that bad. It's just that we have to be really, really, really careful, or else we could destroy everything. It's like it's a high risk, high reward. Instead of making, let's say, it's a high risk for, a high reward. You can't get a good reward without a risk. But yeah, sometimes things go awry. I'm pretty sure someone else has something to add on to that. If you don't, whatever.
It really is, though. It really is a high risk, high reward because you don't know what could happen. A reward is peace, and peace is pretty cool. But the risk is extinction of the human race. So, yeah, we really don't know what could happen.
Yeah. Also, the big energy companies, I guess you can somewhat trust them, but you can't really trust them, if you know what I'm saying. I'm just worried that that my power will go off in an instant if I say that without having a bit of a doubt. I guess that's
Damn
being paranoid.
corporations.
But yeah, they just have to be careful enough to not screw everything up, which is worrying because they should be going at full careful, not medium or low careful, if that makes any sense at all. And I'm not...
That makes sense. But, oopsie. All right, had a little mess up, screwed up a little bit there. But honestly, we could sit here debating about nukes all day, I bet, but we don't know. We honestly have to come to a conclusion either to do nothing or to do something. And the consequences of both, the risks of both are very, very high.
High risk, high reward. We just gotta choose the right decision, and we have no idea what it is.
And if nuclear weapons become, and let's talk a little about, again, for the ballistic missile defense system, that's a big problem for nuclear weapons. Because if you have a country, let's say America wants to attack Russia, and America has a ballistic missile defense network, therefore they can attack Russia without any fear of repercussion because they can blow any missile Russia sends out of the sky. You have to understand how big a deal that is, because technically it's not a nuclear weapon. It's not really getting the news it freaking deserves. It should be getting a lot of news that a lot of countries are trying to do this. You know what? You guys talk for a second. I'm gonna look that crap up and talk to you guys about it in a few minutes.
All right.
Doom, death, explosions.
Well, I guess we can talk a little bit. I guess we can, while he's looking that up, we can have a quick discussion about, like, is really, do we need, it's just a small side thing, but do we really need, what is the real, like, pros of government then? Well, I guess one of the pros is things actually get done because we're not a big disorganized mess.
Universal laws,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Laws that keep people, well, they're not the only, it's a moral deterrent as well. But people tend to group up. That will never stop, ever. I don't think if we just went to, a disorganized jumble, that it would stay a disorganized jumble.
Yeah, it would be more like this. At least I think. Your watermelons look nice. How many watermelons can I get for these
I
hens?
found something.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, what do you have for us?
So, looks like quite a few countries. France, UK, Italy, India, Israel, and Russia. And US. That's a lot. One second. So India has BMDP, Ballistic Missile Defense Program. US, I think it's called, I don't know what it's called in US, it's called NMS, National Missile Defense. And Russia, what do they have up their sleeves? They got A-135 anti-ballistic missile system. Israel has got basically a lot of stuff. And that's scary because let me look up the ones that have, I think most of the countries listed here have nuclear weapons. So these are countries that have nuclear weapons. I know for a fact that UK, India, Israel, Russia, and US have nuclear weapons. I'm not sure about France and Italy, but the thing is, if Italy and France have ballistic missile defense systems, it probably would apply for most of Europe due to the fact of the EU and defending each other militarily. So even if one country in the EU has a nuclear presence, which I know UK does, but Brexit, we're not talking about that, okay? No,
subject
we're not.
for another time.
Subject for another time.
And that's how the UK in the Fallout universe was destroyed by something like Brexit. So, oh
really?
crap, there goes the pack of wild wolves.
What?
Oh, yeah, so I guess while we're waiting again, I'll just ask another question. How do you think war, affects our daily lives? I think it definitely affects everyone in some way. It doesn't really. It could affect you in a big way. It could affect you in a small way. It's not like I'm like stacking up cans and saving food, but there's always a little something in the back of everyone's minds. At least that's my opinion. Have anything to say on this, Will?
No, absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. Honestly, I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, I mean,
At
like,
least,
how's your daily life affected? Do you think other people's daily lives are affected?
well, speaking from personal experience, because I have never been in anyone else's shoes before. Who wants to be in another person's shoes? I mean, seriously, they're gross. Get it? Because shoes. Anyway, bad joke. My life isn't affected. I I don't think it's gonna happen.
So I have up here list of nuclear countries. All right. This is designated nuclear weapon states. China, France, remember they have nuclear weapon defense system. China, France, Russia, UK, and United States. Designated nuclear weapon states. These are other states with nuclear weapons. India, Pakistan, and North Korea, but who the frick knows what's going on in there, right? Who the frick knows, right? But
North
yeah,
Korea.
it's definitely possible they have nuclear weapons.
Let's just
All
put
right.
that one in quotes,
Yeah.
just in case.
NATO, this is NATO nuclear weapon sharing states. I assume these are states that don't actually have nuclear weapons, but they're protected under NATO member states that have nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
This includes Belgium, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, and Turkey. Now, interestingly enough, I didn't see Israel here. I could have sworn they had nuclear weapons.
I think they do.
I could have sworn they had. Yes. All right. Presumed. Nuclear weapons are presumed in Israel. All right. That's unsettling. According to Wikipedia, nuclear weapons are presumed in Israel, yet they are confirmed, according to this, in North Korea. That's unsettling. So,
What? If anything, they should be
according to
reversed.
Wikipedia, though,
It's
take Wikipedia with a grain of
Wikipedia.
salt. I mean, I like Wikipedia, but I mean, some of the things they say can be, not as accurate as possible. Yet, but I'm not trying to say don't look up Wikipedia. Wikipedia is amazing. I love Wikipedia every day. I love it. But according to this Wikipedia list of states with nuclear weapons, and there are states formerly possessing nuclear weapons: Belarus, Kazakhstan, South Africa, and Ukraine. So those are states that formerly had nuclear weapons. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, maybe not cool, but it's interesting.
Well, Neil, you haven't responded. How do you think the fear of war affects your life in any way?
I would say the fact that I'm even thinking of that fact that we even have this topic is technically affecting my life. In what way do you mean affecting my life? In a negative way?
I mean, like in any way, like
Then
let's
absolutely.
say not today, but 3 or 4 days ago.
Probably a little bit, because I often think about what could happen if the world ended and what solutions we have, and nuclear war is one of those huge things. So I think it does affect my life, and it takes up maybe not a huge part, but a part of my thinking capacity. So maybe in a minute way, as it may be affected to other people, but I guess it would affect my life, but in a minute way.
Basically, I have, because I'm a fan of the Fallout series, a very big fan. It does affect my life in some ways. It is on my wall. It's commonly on my mind. The thought. I'm constantly thinking about it. But
It's on your wall, and it's on
Do-
my wall, quite literally.
does it scare me? Does it make me fear for the future? Does it make me fear for the next generation? No, it doesn't. It I really didn't think it's ever going to happen. I mean, I think there are going to be some accidents where nuclear bombs are going to be detonated, but do I think a nuclear apocalypse is going to ever happen? Not really.
For me, I'm not really sure. You look at other close calls, and even if one accident happens, a country might not wait to take it as a sign of aggression and launch nuclear weapons at another state. We honestly don't know, and that makes it a part of my life as well. Not as much part of my life, I suppose, as others who are living constant fear of it, but it definitely affects my life. What about you, Leandros? Did you answer the question? I'm not sure.
What I said was, it does somewhat affect me, as every once in a while when I'm on a walk or a hike, I'll think about it. Really, it's wherever my mind wanders on that particular day. But yes, it does affect me in some way, and it does affect my family in some way. It's always really the back of the head, like right there compared to right here, which is the more pressing matter. So I guess, yes, it does.
Well, okay. I definitely understand that. I think that nuclear, I'll say power, the power of nuclear energy. I'm not talking about power plants, probably everything. We were talking about nuclear fusion, nuclear power plants, nuclear weapons. They affect our lives, whether we like it or not, in such amazing ways. Whether you admit it or not, it does affect your life because you're living in peace. You have an abundance of power, which has probably contributed in some way to either another place having nuclear power so you can have it. And it also affects global warming due to the fact that you have clean power. It also has promising futures for space travel. And yet there are also things where when you think about it, you think that there could be possibly the tests of nuclear bombs could impact the environment. Nuclear bombs as a whole could mean political fallout, nuclear fallout. There are so many bad things that can happen with nuclear weapons as well. And honestly, they do affect all of our lives, whether you want to say it or not. And I suppose that would be my closing statement for the day.
You ever heard of a little thing called Bikini Atoll? It was a nuclear test, and basically the island is still uninhabitable to this day, and a lot of people were dislocated. Anyway, that wasn't my closing statement, so I'll let, if you want to do your closing statement,
Yeah.
I'll just let you do yours.
I guess I'll go first, if you want to go first. I guess I'll go first then. So nuclear power is good, but also bad, but also good, but also bad. We don't know what to do with the waste, but it makes a lot of power. All in all, it's a very great topic, and it would take a long time to really figure out what to do with it. And yeah, but things are peaceful right now, and that's good. I guess that'd be my closing statement.
And thank you. And obviously, we have to thank the viewers for participating in this spread and expansion of knowledge and consciousness, because knowledge and the spread of knowledge and the internet is probably the greatest thing in the entire world. Thank you for watching. And now I'm going to do Martin's closing statement.
Wait.
Hi, my name is Martin. Goodbye. Oh, that was Martin's closing statement.
Okay, wait, I haven't done my closing statement yet. Basically, my closing statement is, I think, nuclear weapons and nuclear energy is a neutral topic. It has pros and cons. It can affect the world in a terrible way or a great way. And honestly, if we don't become more responsible and more whole as a human race, well, we're going to be destroyed anyway. Basically, if we don't group together and become one people on this earth, nuclear weapons or not, we're going to destroy ourselves. And that's my closing statement. Yep.
So thank you for watching and the spread
Thanks
of
for
knowledge.
watching.
Thank you so much. Nukes
Thank
are
you.
dropping.
Bye.
Bye.
If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Mainstream media exists for the purposes of indoctrination and manipulation of public perception. The world of free and independent media is growing, and with the upsurge in information now available in the public domain, it has never been easier to access free and independent media. The exploration of this information resulted in an experimental project which would provide a fully supported space for researchers, whistleblowers, and seekers of all kinds to express themselves and educate the world. On the 1st of January 2015, Conscious Consumer Network was launched to the world. Nobody thought we would make it this far, but CCN is the longest running free and independent media network of its kind. CCN is a unique collaboration of hearts and souls, bringing you information from different perspectives to educate and inform. Since we started CCN, we have had only one desire: the pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world, and this has not changed. Having overcome many challenges over the last 2 years, CCN is here to stay, and we've got great things lined up for 2017. Help keep CCN on the air by supporting the 2017 Network Support Fund.